I get shit done, I have fun. It's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking through.
Ending 30 plus years in the IT industry to become a marketer. So this guy's not a young guy, but we're going to explore that today. But before we jump into that topic and meeting my wonderful guest, welcome. If you're watching us live, appreciate you being here and sharing some time with us today. And if you're not here live, catching it on the replay, hashtag replay, let us know where you're watching in from. And of course, another ask is please share this out. If you like anything about what we're doing, let other people know where we're at. And then last but not least, if you could subscribe to our YouTube channel to help get more eyeballs and hear the stories from our wonderful guests. There's miracles and magic and marvelous things that happen. I hear things on a regular basis from people I didn't even know were watching the show, and they continue to encourage me to bring on these terrific people for around the globe. But before we get into the ending 30 plus years in the IT industry talk today, I have a shameless plug from my sponsor. And at the end, there's a gift for you. So hang in there with me. Hey, welcome back. And it is free, actually. There's no credit card required. All you need to do is go to coachphil.ca, like it said in the video. And in the top right-hand corner, click on the business growth assessment. Fill in the information, get the answers to your question, and see where you're at. You might be knocking it out of the park and just be reminding you how great you are. Or you might see that there's an area you'd like to improve upon. At any rate, also included in that is, because you're here and watching us, is a 20-minute complimentary coaching session. Ask us a question. So if I don't have the answer to your question, I'm part of a network that's around the globe. So we'll get you sorted out or give you an idea what to do. And it's complimentary just for hanging out with us and watching the Business Renovator. So enough about that. Let's talk about my guest. Ending 30 plus years in the IT industry to become a marketer. That's quite a transition if you've ever worked in the IT industry. So after 30 plus years in the that industry, IT industry, it is like IT. I have a couple of buddies that have a company called, anyway, let me go back to Bob. So Bob's decided to switch into marketing after 30 plus years. His biggest strength is working with people. He naturally wants to solve problems and teach people how to do it for themselves. His positive approach to everything he does helps him go the distance to see the job properly done. In the interest of his clients, he's not shy to seek out help when needed for them and for himself, by the way. As a student of marketing and keeping on top of the latest trends, one of his favorite taglines is "Smart marketing keeps on giving." My favorite saying, "The best place to hide a dead body is on the page 2 of Google search results." I could go on. He's a grandfather. He loves to sail. He's worked with Hughes Aircraft and Raytheon, I probably said that wrong, Systems, and a few other cool places like that. His retirement gift for himself was actually to do 10 years in marketing. So enough about that. Let's bring him on and let him tell us who he is himself. Bob, welcome to the stream. Good to see you. And thanks.
Good morning, Phil. Good morning, Phil. Thank you so much for having me on the Business Renovator podcast. I love the opportunity to meet you and your audience and just tell them a little bit about what I do.
Cool. I'm happy to share a little bit. And maybe there'll be a nugget in there that we can introduce to people that they can use and add to their own success as entrepreneurs or leaders. I like to think of the Business Renovator as kind of like a kaleidoscope. We give people the opportunity to turn their their kaleidoscope just a little bit, so it changes their perspective, and often that takes them to the next best thing in their life, at least on the path to it. Just a subtle change. Anyway, besides coaching or supporting your granddaughter in volleyball, what else do you love to do?
My granddaughter is a major thing in my life. It's just the way things work out, and my wife and I are really, really happy to be able to do that. She's on track to looking to earn a scholarship into a volleyball career. So it's very important for us to be there to support her. It's not always a winning game, but it's more often than not, and that's the thing that really counts. That's the most important part. And the other things that I like to do are travel. I really am a traveler kind of guy. I've been through the Far East when I was younger. I spent 6 months doing that. I traveled through Europe because I have a family living in Europe, in Geneva, to be specific. And I look very forward to going there. I haven't been there in a couple of years because of COVID. My wife and I have decided to not get into a cigar and spend 8 hours sitting with other people we don't know, but hopefully that's going to be lifting soon. And we're looking forward to getting over into the Geneva space. I love Geneva, but I've also done a lot of travel. They lived in Amsterdam Leiden, but outside of Amsterdam for quite a while. And we ended up going to that part of the world in Holland many, many times. And Amsterdam has become one of my very favorite cities. In fact, we're taking my oldest granddaughter from Vancouver there in April. She's an art student here in Vancouver and going to Emily Carr. And so there's just a non-ending number of things that you can do in Amsterdam that are artistically inclined. So I'm looking really forward to that. She and I are good friends and we get along quite well.
Fantastic. Probably something to do with the oak tree. The acorn doesn't fall too far from the oak tree. And you're the originator, you and your wife are the originator of this particular group of acorns. So congratulations for that. I was in the Netherlands once, just on an airplane. We landed and caught another plane and went back to England. Anyway, didn't spend anywhere near as much time as you have in that country, or I've never been to Geneva, so that's exciting too. In your travels and in seeing different parts of the world, did that have any effect on your businesses, either your old business of IT and your more current business in marketing?
That's a great question, Phil. Thank you. To answer the question in a simple word, yes, actually, because for a number of years, myself and my son, he's the Geneva part, and a few other people owned and operated a business that operated in North America, in Bellingham, Washington, here in Vancouver, London, Amsterdam, and South Africa, and out of Johannesburg. It was a consulting organization. It was IT based, definitely. A lot of ideas came out of that. And it was a great experience. And that was a part of the reasons why I ended up going to Amsterdam more often than I really thought I would. My son is a very acute and very successful businessman. And that having that experience and working with him was a very valuable exercise on my part. So the things that I learned from that organization, I brought back home and have been using some, not all, but some of them in my practices, my businesses here in Vancouver.
Cool. Global entity. That's exciting. I didn't realize that. If I'd have known, I would have paid you more to be on the show.
Okay.
But I didn't know, so I don't have to.
I know. That's right.
Anyway, part of what I like in business is to have fun and without being offensive to people and, belittling people. I don't think that's a good thing. But having, spontaneous humor, like we just experienced, is fabulous. What's your thought about humor in the workspace?
Well, that's another really great question. Holy mackerel. So as an IT guy for a number of years, I had a mindset that said, okay, I've got to do this and I've got to do that. And it had very little idea or very little language component to it that focused in on the marketing side of things. And when I realized that IT wasn't for me anymore, I got into the marketing side of it, I had to change my whole mindset. I didn't realize I was going to have to do that, but I did. And today I find that thinking in terms of IT, solving computer problems and things, along those lines. It's just not something that I'm even remotely interested in. Now I pick up a phone and somebody needs help, I go and get it from them. I don't want to do it anymore. It just was holy mackerel. And I'm very happy about that, because what I discovered, to be honest with you, Phil, what I discovered a couple of years ago was this is what I should have been doing right from the outset. The computer business, I did very well with the computer business, and I was happy with doing it, but I'm much happier doing this. Even with it behind me, I have the added value of being able to know when someone's not really giving me the goods, or someone is hiding something in the IT world that in their organization that should be coming out from a marketing point of view, and we need to fix it. So I bring a really balanced and knowledgeable approach to working with my clients on that basis.
So just for the audience, I want to clarify what this is. And this is the marketing. You went from IT, so we're not going to talk about that anymore, because we don't do that anymore. That's 30 years ago. Now it's 10 years plus of marketing. How did you go? This is the last question. It's more like the bridge, the transition. How did you go from IT to marketing?
Well, to be honest with you, it was a 4:00 in the morning phone call that I got from a server farm that had crashed on us, and the backup systems weren't working right, and the power was out. And I had to get in my car. I'll be kind about it. I'll get in my car and go there with the team to see if we couldn't figure out what was going on. And I realized that this is ridiculous. I'm at a point in my life now where I really don't want to be doing this anymore. So I spent a little bit of time finding someone to buy the organization. It turned out to be a good friend. We're very good friends, and we remain that way today. And I said, okay, I'm done now. And then but to get into marketing, I had a lot of small businesses in my kit bag at the time in my company. And I realized that most of them didn't know how to market, didn't want to market, didn't have the money to market, weren't interested in doing it. Well, and I thought, this is crazy, because they're leaving lots of money on the table. With my point of view about IT and had the mindset that I had, I realized that I could possibly do something to help them. So I took on the marketing mantle, and I thought, it's a piece of cake. I can do this in a year and I'll have it all straightened away. Well, I've been at it now for quite a while, and I'm still learning every single day. It's a big field, and it's really amazing, and I loving every minute of it.
Yeah. Do you find it evolves and changes? And even though there's some psychological things that stay consistent, like a framework, like there's a interrupt, engage, educate, and offer, that stays consistent. How we deliver the technology, the tactic may change, because we used to have the yellow pages, and people are going, what are those? And things like a Rolodex, we don't have those things anymore. But out of that has evolved to something a little bit bigger, better, and brighter. Yet the framework of it, like gravity, always works. No matter how old it is, it still works. Do you find that there's some gravitational kind of consistency in the marketing space?
Absolutely. There are basic fundamentals. We can go back to Seth Godin or to any of the people that were in the marketing space before him or along the same time that he was working. Ted Kennedy is another one, for example. I read a lot of their works. The same principles apply, whether you're a digital marketer or not. My particular focus is on digital marketing, but you still have to do the fundamentals. And the number of people that think that there's a silver bullet in marketing, I'm constantly amazed, because there's no silver bullet. There's many, many things that you could, should, and absolutely must be doing in concert or one at a time or however you put it together. But you can't just think of marketing as a single thing, a single undertaking. And so those things never change. That's always there.
I'm glad you say that, because that was my belief too. So one of the things I do is in the space of being the business renovator, I help people move walls, but not in a physical sense. Although I guess if they have a leasehold improvement, we can do and work and plan on that. I had a former client that was renting a space. He's a veterinarian, and his specialty was working on horses that were competing, and their owners were looking for more belt buckles. So high-end competitive horses. And in working with him, he came up with a vision through our coaching sessions and drew it all out and on a piece of foolscap. That's paper for those that are younger than you and I. And just roughly put it out there. And we kept thinking about it, get him to think about what would be next, how would it look like, what are the things he would like to have in it. Well, now That was like 12 years ago. Fast forward, he's got 2 locations like that now. And the first one he got done in less than 5 years because his plan was to have one within 5 years. By the end of the second year of coaching and working with him, he was already breaking ground. So it accelerates what he was doing. And I had a brain fart. I was going somewhere. It tied in with what you were talking about. See how this is? It's just raw, real people having real conversations. Anyway, having a message and knowing what business you are in is really paramount to the marketing. That's, I guess, really where I was kind of going. Because if you're not looking at who your target audience in like he did, you won't. It's tough to get things done if you don't have focus. I was thinking of 2 different metaphorical kind of stories, and that's where my pause came from. So I'm going to just say the magnifying glass. It does 2 things. It makes things easier to read, but if you catch the sun and turn it in the right angle, you can accelerate the energy from the sun into something and light a fire. So with the right marketing, you could do the same thing, can't you? Boy, that was a long-winded thing for me to get to. But the question to you was, with that kind of focused effort in your marketing strategies, do you think that can help people do the same thing as my example with a vet?
Yes, absolutely, I do, and that's it's a great observation on your part, and you've got the experience to realize that too as well. So the thing that I find is that in working with clients is that they're not doing certain things, and by not doing certain things, it's easy to demonstrate what those new tactics would become or could become. And I really am very happy to say that when they adopt our particular approach or the approach to fill in those holes where they're not doing things, I'm really happy to see the business flourish or earn something or make it work. It's not just a throwaway, and it's not just something that they're wasting their time at. There always is going to be a good positive return from those kinds of things. And so many businesses today have holes in their marketing program. They don't even realize it. And it's really I get a lot of pleasure out of being able to say, well, have you thought about doing this? Have you thought about doing this? And for example, I was talking with a gentleman the other day, and they were talking about putting together an event, an online event, microphones and a number of people, 30 or 40 people in it. And so we got onto the topic about how you're going to promote that event. And so one of the ideas that I came up with out of a few, but this one in particular that I came up with was you need to do both digital and direct marketing. Direct marketing means you're going to create a postcard. Okay, and you're going to be able to hand that out. We're getting back into in-person conversations now, in-person presentation component or capability. And don't forget, on that postcard, you're going to put a QR code. And on that QR code, someone's going to be able to just scan it and say it's going to go to wherever you are going to collect registrations. And then you've got that information captured. And the thing about capturing the information is you've got it forever. So you've got the ability to actually continue to engage and talk with those people over a long period of time in whatever form that you want to do. Could be direct, it could be digital, but it's very important. And they didn't have the capability to fill that particular hole with that service in the past. So they're doing that. Then we'll see how the event turns out for them.
I'm going to ask you a question that we didn't have a huddle and give you the answer. What is the purpose of a business? That's a trick question.
What's the purpose of a business? Purpose of a business is for me, it's just to get a lot of pleasure out of doing what I do and loving the kinds of things that I do. And for me also, it's a case of I get a lot of pleasure, as you said in the very beginning, I get a lot of pleasure out of working with people and helping them. And I see that from a business point of view, from my client's point of view, their purposes would be probably quite similar, but if they have a shareholder kind of situation on their plate, they have an obligation also to drive the shareholder interest up. And that's sort of where I am. So
a game show host buzzer. Good answer, but not the one I was looking for.
Okay.
But it is a really good one. I mean, you being in business just to make money is not probably a good idea. Getting into business to do something that makes a difference for you and the people you want to serve, I think, is part of the equation. Where I'm going, though, with the correct answer for the game show today is we're in the business of getting and keeping customers. That's really what we do. And how we get them is through marketing, and how we keep them is by providing value, purposeful value, heartfelt value to the people we serve. So what you said was actually correct, but just not for my game show today. It's really simple: getting and keeping customers, right? And the first one is not the first sale is not the most important. It's actually the additional sales after that. So getting and keeping customers, right? That's one of the things. And if we're going to be going through some hard times, and I don't want to say anything more about it than that because I'm not going to buy into it. If we defend our customers, our territory, and we do what you just said. I think one of the most mismanaged assets out there by, I would say, 80 to 90% of small to medium-sized business is keeping a list of customers that they can nurture, support, educate, tell jokes to, provide tips to. That doesn't even involve a financial transaction, but they're there to serve and help them in all areas. Anyway, that's my thought. What do you think about what I just said? You could say, no, you're way off base, Gil.
You're way off base. What the hell? That's right. No, you're not. So you raised some really interesting points there, Phil, and I agree with everything that you said. Hard times, I'm going to come back to that, even though you sort of said, no, we're not going to do that. Right now, I am personally expecting that we're going to see some tough times coming along. And so the messaging that I'm working on right now is to mitigate the tough times in a marketing situation. And that's it's like the old thing a few years ago, well, we're green, we're evergreen, we're ecologically sound, those sorts of things. Well, and in this particular case, everything that I read, all of the people that my mentors, et cetera, are saying the same thing. We're running into a tough time. So I am paying attention to tough time marketing and tough times coming along. And one of the ways that I do that is I teach. I have a number of courses that I put together that are focused on building and keeping a business going in a marketing sense. So, for example, one of the courses I have is building a low-cost marketing program. Low cost is pretty key. So, and that's one of the vehicles that I will use to talk to my clients and help them out. But I definitely am focused now in that direction because I think it's going to happen.
Oh, I'm going to bring back. So we had a comment from the audience there. And I don't disagree with them. Actually, I kind of agree with this as well. Provides a service via specialization and cooperation. So that's the laser focus of the magnifying glass, I think, said more eloquently than my English. Yeah, when like there's been tough times in the world a lot, and some good times a lot, and they parallel often in the same time, right? For example, back in the 80s, interest rates were 21% for mortgages, for houses, trying to get a house, right? We survived that. I changed careers because I was selling new homes at the time, but you adjust and adapt. Being prepared with a marketing strategy seems like that's what you're going to be working with your customers and future customers. And I think that's a good idea because hunkering down and hiding and waiting for the adversity to disappear is not it is a strategy, but we just went through a harsh, and we're not totally out of COVID yet. There's still some things going on there, but out of that, if you just hunker down and let it take over, then you're giving up accountability for your own life. Whereas if you, not to say that we caused COVID, what can we do though when the lemons show up, like that awful thing, and turn it into something good? For me, the business Renovator was born in shortly after March. I think we officially went late April, early May. And I have to be honest that the first couple of, well, maybe the first year, I don't know, but every master was once a disaster, and man, I was a disaster. And I don't even think I'm a master yet, but I'm not as bad as when I started back in 2020. And the people I've met, the people I've got to learn from, people like you, it's just been amazing. It's a priceless price. It's almost like a MasterCard moment, priceless.
Absolutely. Absolutely, no question about that. You've talked about a whole range of things that are going back into the past. in Toronto, we lived in Toronto when in 1981 and 1980, when disaster struck. We had I worked at Univac at the particular point in time, part of my IT background.
No
And
way.
yeah, there's and IBM, and I did some Microsoft time too.
I worked at Unisys.
Oh, there you go. Oh, Unisys. That's the post.
The marriage of the two, Spare Univac and Burroughs. Yeah.
Correct. Wow. But that was 1981 was a really tough time. And we had myself and a friend who lives in Dallas today, had a business, and we ended up focusing on the printing industry with Univac systems. And we got through that, but it was horrific. My wife and I ended up living in a student residence in University of Toronto in Mississauga for about 4 months at one point, because the money was really tight and things just weren't working very well. But we got through that, and the business survived, all the rest of it. And the point that you were making was, yes, you just get on, put it behind you, make sure you've got plans in place to see what you're going to be doing and how you're going to address that particular situation. But I think the thing today, bringing it forward to today, is that people don't have I hate the word, but they don't have a list, and they're not paying attention to what's in the list, who their contacts are, who their audience is. They're going to have difficulty going forward, because so much of business today is in a digital kind of an environment, is in an environment where you don't necessarily meet the people, especially because of COVID. Turns out we haven't been able to get out and around for 3 years. You need to have that other kind of connection. And that's from my point of view, that is pretty much where we have to be today, and when we're thinking about helping people in their business.
And I don't apologize for telling the obvious, which is not obvious. It's common sense. But one of the things we found is that common sense is not really all that common. Having the list is the asset I was referring to. Like 90% of small businesses do not look after their list. They're always hunting and fishing for the new customer. In the HVAC space, where I have some success, how often we're going to buy a furnace. We don't get excited about a furnace like we do a car, but out of necessity, we like a furnace, especially like it's minus 24 here today, Celsius. Pretty cold, but with a furnace, it stays pretty nice. And, but I'm not going to buy another furnace. I might get it repaired, but I'm not looking to buy it to replace it like I would a car, a sound system, a TV. It's not that emotional connection. And what I found is that a lot of that industry specifically are hunting and fishing for the new ones instead of, and yes, they do need new customers. Like what I was saying, we're in the business of getting and keeping customers. They don't do a lot of them don't do a very good job of keeping them, nurturing them, and managing their list and defending it. So they're missing a huge opportunity. It's a low cost acquisition to get new customers, because if people are happy with you, won't they tell their friends, their neighbors, and say, hey, we had our furnace put in, or we had our furnace repaired, and these guys are great? Because I do have a story like that, which I won't go on about, but I have 3 examples of HVAC companies I've had an experience with my home. And the third one was stellar. They did more than what I anticipated and didn't charge me any extra for the more, which is fantastic. But all 3 of them, what they didn't do, stay in touch with me. So that's what you're talking about, is staying in touch, defending your list, and making sure you have a customer base that you can support, not just to make money, but to make their lives better. And at the same time, make your heart sing doing what you love to do. Anyway, that was a rant, but you hit a nerve, and it's one I'm really passionate about.
But you did say something really, really crucial there, besides keeping in touch and nurturing everything that's going on. And that is the art of referral. Referral is so key in that industry. I'm amazed that more people don't do it. Anybody that I'm working with in the home services industry right now, and by the way, the home services industry in North America is one of the biggest growing industries for people in the marketing sector. That it's unbelievable how the opportunities that exist there, and the ability for people to assist in the home services. But going back to what you were saying, is that the following up with any kind of a follow-up is it just isn't working. So we have our list, and we refer the people that do that HVAC kind of work in our service, but I don't see them doing it. And that's where I could help. Any kind of a digital marketing company could help those people in terms of getting through this particular downturn we're going to be looking at, I think.
And if I was a good guy, where did it go? I had you in here. Oh, there you are. I want to put you up there. This is the guy we're talking to. And his last name is not Bob. That's his first name. And if you wanted to reach out and find out more about him, you could go to his LinkedIn page, which I'm going to bring up here too. Just a second. Let's make it even bigger. And you can go and find out more about his marketing approach and his strategies, tactics. And he doesn't bite. Have a conversation with him. He's an interesting dude.
Please do.
That's how you can find him.
I encourage anybody to absolutely click on that LinkedIn component, and I'm more than happy to sit down and have a chat. And I'm pleased to be able to say that, because in any conversation that I have in an environment like that, I call it a discovery kind of situation, because I always learn something that I didn't know. And I love that component of what I do, being able to grow my own knowledge and become more aware of what people are doing.
Well, that's excellent. You know what? Time's run out. It goes fast, doesn't it?
Holy mackerel.
I know. So I'm going to thank you for being here and sharing your wisdom and some insights about a number of things. And I look forward to hanging out with you for a few more minutes as we wrap this up. I'm just looking for a banner, a piece of branding that I have, because I like it. And
branding. That's another word we didn't talk about.
No, we just did. So one of the things I like is for you and everybody else out there to be the you and wonderful, because you are uniquely wonderful. So go act like it. Be your wonderful, unique self. Hang on. Somebody's commented. I don't want to leave them hanging. Hey, thank you for being here and popping in and give us a few comments. Really appreciate you being here. And share it with your friends. Let them know we're here. And you never know what you might learn from the next guest. And remember that you can have a complimentary business growth assessment. No credit card, no money is required, and a complimentary coaching session. Happy to do that for you. In the meantime, stay wonderful and stay warm if you're in the frigid north. And if you're in tropical places, don't tell me, because I'm jealous. Anyway, until we meet again, I'm Coach Phil.
I get shit done. I have fun. It's my time and